Hello everyone and welcome to session 4 of this short course. In today's session, we're going to be discussing how we can drive traffic to our website. Now, for me, there's kind of two approaches to this. The first one is kind of more organically, and the second one is through the use of paid tools. And in order to discuss that quite effectively, what I've done is invited two guests from the MediaWorks team to talk us through those approaches. So gents, if you could introduce yourselves, please.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Alex Watson, Senior SEO Consultant at MediaWorks.
Hi everyone, I'm Tom Chandler, Head of Paid Search and Shopping at MediaWorks.
So when it comes to SEO, what would you say is almost a checklist of what you need to ensure your website has, or the format, the structure that your website needs to have to ensure that it is optimized for search engines?
To do well in the organic search results, you've got three separate parts. So you've got your off-page signals, you've got the technical SEO architecture part, and also your on-page experience. And that's to do with like your on-page content, things like how well you've optimized certain keywords in the content. So they all kind of play a part in showing that your site's relevant for that search result.
So those three areas there, you mentioned technical. Now, I do appreciate that technical is exactly what it says on the tin, and it can get very technical quite easily. But just to keep it at kind of like the top level, what are the type of things that we look out for then?
So with that, we want to ensure that the site's fast. A lot of this ties in as well with not just for helping search engine crawlers to reach a site. It's also for like usability. So if we've got a fast site, that helps the user. No one wants to go to a slow website. So ensuring that the server's optimized for speed. We also want to ensure that the site's crawlable for search engines, so that we can send the search engine to all the different relevant pages on the site that we want to send it to.
And just on that as well, when you talk about being crawlable, that is essentially Google being able to go into the website itself and find out relevant content and information, which it can then return to the users on the results page. Is that correct?
It is, yeah. So if we want a page to appear in the organic search results, we want it to be crawlable, so that's easily accessible. So we want it to not have any blockers on the page, so that it could be something like a password protected section, or for instance, there might be something in what's called the robots.txt file that says to Google, we don't want you to crawl that page. And if there's anything blocking it, it can make it harder for like search engines to reach that page, and at times also the user. But that would it's things to look out for like that. So we also look at other things like, does a site contain many dead links? So that's when you would reach a page and it would have like a 404 error. It could be things to do with like duplicate content, like no one wants to have one page that's exactly the same as the other, so there's that user experience. And also things like, is the site secure? And that's especially important if it's an e-commerce website. So no one wants to buy something from something that looks a bit shady. So generally things like that. And there's other things as well that we got, such as like structured data, which give more context to Google about what the site's about. So that could be things like, again, going back to e-commerce, what the products are about, how much did it cost? And also things like, say, if you've got like a recipe blog for a food blog, you might have give information about like how long it takes to cook something. And that in turn, because you provide that kind of like that context and that added information to Google, you can get something called rich results that appear. So you might see like stars in the organic search results, or you might get something like the FAQ drop down, and that can just we're telling Google more, giving the added context about what that page is about, and also it helps the user experience, like I mentioned as well.
I understand from experience as well as a user, when I've searched for a query before on Google and it comes up with kind of a response where is that drop-down function as you've mentioned. How does that tie into the likes of voice search as well?
It can do. we look at ways as well about voice search is slightly different to the normal search because I guess going on to like keyword discovery and things like that, people tend to use what's called like longer tail keywords for voice search, but generally, you would look to make your site accessible to different users. Make sure that voice search we always think is going to get bigger and bigger as search goes on. It's to make sure that your site's properly optimized and accessible to all different types of users and searches.
So that's kind of the technical side of SEO covered there. So should we move on to another one now?
Yeah. So if we want to go on to on-page copy, so what that involves is making sure that we've got the relevant copy on each page to target that specific query that we want to target. So maybe we've identified that there's a certain keyword that has quite a good amount of search volume, or it's relevant to our business. So we'd look at how to optimize on the page. So we'd look at things like, do we have that keyword in the page title? Is it a keyword included in meta description? Also, does that meta description make the user want to click through from the search results onto our page about that topic?
Yeah.
Other things could be whether we have that keyword or related keywords in the H1 header at the top of the page so that the user knows what's about, and also the search engine crawler knows. Other things would be making sure that we've structured the content in a specific way to suit the intent behind that keyword. Maybe we'll look at other questions that people tend to ask around that topic. So there might be, going back to the FAQ section, there might be an FAQ part of that page, and also just generally providing a good user experience in giving the user a good amount of information about that topic, so that we're proving that we're experts in that area, and making that website owner look like an authority in that niche.
To continue on then with the final part of SEO, which is off-site optimization, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So as part of, to show that Google and other search engines that you're an authority in that niche, you can look at like things like your backlinks to your site. And the backlinks essentially, a vote of confidence from other websites around the web saying that this is a reliable source of information on that topic, so we're going to link out to you.
Right, so this is something that I've heard of previously in terms of trying to have other websites, third-party websites, pass authority onto ours. But my question is, what establishes authority to start with?
There can be different ways to look at it, but if your site or the site that's linking to your site is a recognized brand, it might be an authority in a certain topic, or it might be just a very, like I say, a popular website. And if it's got what's called like a follow link, Google will crawl that page, see that that page is linked back to your website, and say, well, this site obviously knows, what it's talking about. So this is a vote towards this other site in saying that that site also knows what that's talking about. Right,
okay. And so in terms of building out those links from third-party websites to our own website then, kind of the practices that sit amongst that to achieve those backlinks, how would somebody go about doing that, or what's the easiest way of gaining those links to begin with?
Would differ depending on the size of the website. So obviously if you're a big recognized brand, you've probably also got mentions of your brand around the internet. But it might be the case where, say, all of those brands don't link to your website. So, we don't have those links, we don't have those votes, going back to that term. So what we could do is, if you're that website owner or publisher, you could reach out to that other website owner and say, would you mind linking back? You've mentioned my site on there. You've obviously feel that my site contains quality information. Would you mind linking back to that? So that's one way. Other ways are if you've also got ties with other business owners, then you can reach out to them and say, would you be able to, you might have some information like a blog post around a certain topic, and that topic might overlap with your business. So you might say, could you link back to my site for that? It might be because you're part of some sort of like organization that gives to charities. So if you do that, then you can maybe get a backlink that way. And it's generally about like building relationships with like other website owners in some way. So there's ways like that. There's also digital PR ways, other ways of providing information to other website owners. Say, if you've got some sort of like maybe data analysis, if you have some sort of quotes on a hot topic at the moment, say if there's a topic trending, and you're again want to portray yourself as like an authority in that niche, you can reach out and say, I can add more information to you for this topic, and in return you'd expect to have a link going back to the site.
Yeah.
So like mentioned before, there's different types of links. You can have things like a follow link, which is where Google follows it back to the site, and that link tends to pass on more value compared to something like called a no follow link. And there's other types, say if it might be to do with like a paid sponsorship link, you can specify that in the link. Maybe if it's user generated content, you can specify that as well. And that helps to give, again, more context to Google about how that link was obtained and what it's about.
So that in itself, you've specified there, for instance, you have a follow link and a non-follow link. Why do those exist, and what are the key differences behind them in terms of the format or how you would create those links? But also, why would you want to tell Google to follow or to not follow? In which instances would that occur?
It all depends on the circumstances. There might be something to do with, again, the relationship between the websites, maybe going back to whether you've maybe paid for that link or that sponsorship, and that's been a link due to that. So maybe there's been some sort of like monetary value there. And essentially what Google wants is the link profile to look as natural as possible. So if you've gone out and bought links to maybe game the algorithm and to get an advantage that way, that isn't what it wants. It wants people or website owners to, prove that they know what they're talking about. That, and going back to that, providing like an expertise and authority in that area. And so that's one way of just kind of, specifying this link was obtained this way.
Right.
And things like
almost like a level of transparency.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So to go back to one of the points that you made earlier about outreach, digital PR, etc., I think it's also worthwhile saying, just for the learners on this course as well, that those in themselves are kind of huge disciplines, huge areas. I know that in MediaWorks you have dedicated teams just for that because of the value and the power in dedicating resource to achieving the likes of backlinks, establishing relationships and all the rest of it as well. So a question I have for you then, right, is you've spoken about on-site SEO, you've spoken about off-site, you've spoken about technical. So if I was to ensure that my website is properly structured, if I was to ensure that the copy and the content that I have on my website is all optimized using the correct keywords, and if I also got a few backlinks thrown in there as well, does that mean I'm going to turn up on the first page right at the top?
There's probably there's definitely over 200 different factors that contributed. But just going back to that point you made there about if you're starting off from the beginning, what can you do? Where can you focus on? What I would do is just do your research using just Google. Just look at other competitor sites, see how they've structured the site, see what type of content they've got on their pages, and just look for like hints and see, this page is doing quite well for this keyword. Maybe I need to answer that kind of question or have a section on my site for that. So it's definitely easy to just kind of like start up. You can easily buy hosting and set up your site. It's so easy nowadays, and that's how I got started originally, and just kind of like test it out. I think that's the main thing. It's like we're not going to be experts in all different areas of the things that I've mentioned there, and it's a case of just like testing out, seeing what works, seeing what your competitors are doing, and just making a plan and just go from there.
Yeah, I think that's quite a nice way to segue into the paid stuff then, simply because, you know, conversations that we've had previously about SEO, that it is very much a long game, and that it is about kind of establishing that authority on your website, trying to see results over quite a long period and seeing what works, what doesn't work, and making adjustments as necessary as well. It's not something which you can necessarily just flick the switch on and see results straight away. But there's an argument made for paid that not necessarily give you the quick results, but certainly quicker results in some instances. So I guess, Tom, for you to talk about search engine marketing, the paid angle then, what would you say the main benefits of using paid are, and why is it so important to consider?
Yeah, and I think like paid is a really powerful channel in the sense that realistically you can operate in much shorter time periods to run your sort of performance marketing activity. What that ultimately allows businesses and advertisers to do is to start driving sales and leads and website traffic very, very quickly. For example, to set up like a Google advertising account and to get running, you are genuinely talking a matter of days, where you could, for example, be position number one for some quite highly competitive terms that are very relevant through to your business. So that in itself makes it a very powerful channel to start driving results very quickly. It's also highly targeted. So if I'm selling a particular range of products, or I'm looking to promote services that I have to offer, I'm able to target searches that are specifically people looking for what I'm selling. So that is, that has a big impact on businesses to be able to start driving results very quickly. Obviously, the longer term game is always going to be better, but absolutely paid does operate in a shorter time period where results can be quite quick. What it also allows us to do from a paid point of view, and this very much links into the quality of the website, is creating advanced campaign structures. So yes, we can drive results quickly, but if we don't have our fundamentals correct, many of the points that Alex has talked there, mainly around about like the structure of the website and how content is put on the website, that does in some way limit how far we can go in the longer term game. So in the short term, can we drive traffic and potential leads and sales? Yes, but what I would say is that paid is a channel that is significantly improved if the quality and the fundamentals that we've discussed are addressed, because the performance opportunity scales and is significantly improved.
Right, okay. So just to expand a little bit more on that almost overlap that we see then. So I know something that I've read in the past, and I'm sure that many of the learners as well would have came across, is the importance of relevancy as well, because it's almost like sitting here and listening about how quick the results can be from paid. It's like, well, why would I waste my time and energy on SEO then? Now, of course, you have touched on that about why that's so important, but then to talk about, quality scores, ad relevancy and all the rest. So how does all that link into making sure that we do get the most out of our paid?
Yeah, so the quality score piece is really important. It underpins a lot of what you're sort of saying there, in the sense that quality score is a metric that Google uses to, at a keyword level, give a grading of how great the quality is, for example, on a particular keyword. So it's ranked between 1 and 10, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best. What quality score is made up of is 3 components, 1 being expected click-through rate. So this is ultimately how many times that ad was shown for that keyword and the percentage of people that clicked on it. So if you have a low expected click-through rate, you're going to be penalized for that. The other side of it is ad relevancy. Does the keyword that you're targeting, and therefore the ad that it's linked to, and therefore the landing page it's directed to, do they all correlate? Do they link up, and are they relevant to one another? So that's really important. And the final one is landing page experience. So this relates to the landing page that we are looking to send a user to. How does that correlate with the search that user has made, but also how easy is it for the user to navigate the website? So that landing page experience component is is really important. It's one of the three components of quality score. And if, for example, landing page is neglected, what it means is that your quality score will reduce, and it'll mean that your cost per click, so cost per visit to the website, goes up. Therefore, the efficiency of your marketing budget is decreased if you don't prioritize having a good website with good landing pages that, you know, ultimately allow the user to navigate and find the types of products or services that they are looking for.
I think user experience as well, the point that you've made there is really important when we were talking about on-site optimization and even technical optimization as well, about that user experience and making sure, if you think about that user journey, somebody searches in Google, they're served with an ad, they click through, is to ensure that we keep them engaged on site for as long as possible, serve them with all the relevant information that they could possibly want, and then to follow them through that process where, you know, hopefully they do make that conversion, whatever that conversion looks like. So I think it's really nice to kind of have a holistic view on that, like you said earlier, to understand how all of those pieces fit together. So when it comes to paid, for a lot of people who are getting started in paid, I'm assuming that the first thing that they look at is Google Ads, because it's something, you know, in terms of a term or an area of paid, something that's very popular or quite commonly known. But at the same time, there's often this question about what is the purpose of paid? What is paid actually trying to achieve? And, you know, in kind of mainstream media, if you will, this idea of paid and being targeted is something that's seen as being something that's quite shady and something that as a user you should be wary of. But for you and with your experience of doing this day in and day out, what is the main purpose of paid for businesses, but then also for the user as well?
Paid media, and in particular Google Ads, like at its core, it is more often than not the biggest investment in terms of marketing budget for advertisers, for the single reason that it is the most powerful and the most efficient in terms of driving results. And also, like, the Google, if we think of Google, it loves showing ads because that's where it makes all of the generates all its revenue from. What that means is the technology and the automation and the types of campaigns that we have at our disposal is so advanced that the results are continuing to scale, and what we can do within the campaigns are getting more and more advanced. So I think for a lot of advertisers, Google Ads, for example, is something that underpins, or it's more often not the foundation of which they build upon, because it's something that allows them to target highly relevant terms. That's obviously, you know, what they want to be targeting, and ultimately driving users that are searching for particular products or services to their website. Now, that in itself is something that drives a lot of value for businesses. And as I say, that in itself is ultimately why advertisers do it, because it works, it drives a lot of value through to them, and it's also very scalable because it's ultimately how much you're looking to invest in the platform. If you do want to scale during periods of high intent, you have the application to do that. And in periods that you don't want to do that, or it's off season, or potentially the business doesn't have the funds to do that, you can scale that down. So it's a very accessible channel and platform that advertisers that spend from £100 a week to maybe £100,000 a week, they can all use Google Ads because it's able to scale across varying different sizes of businesses.
And just on that as well, then, I guess you've kind of answered the question there, but kind of the elephant in the room when it comes to paid is it's paid. You know, there's a cost associated to that. Now, would you say that in order to be competitive and to really being able to play that competitive position on the field, that you do need quite a significant budget to be able to do so, or does it depend?
Yeah, it definitely does depend. I think, as I was going to mention, one of the really good things about sort of Google Ads is that it can be for a small shop in a city can look to use Google Ads, to huge, you know, multinational corporations or like high street brands. They're all using Google Ads. They're all using the same technology and platform. So in terms of budgets, etc., we have clients that will spend maybe a few £100 a week to spending, you know, thousands and thousands of pounds a week. I think what is one of the benefits of Google Ads, and this very much links in with how, for example, the website structure correlates with the Google Ads structure. So one of the really important parts of Google Ads is the measurability of success. And because if you're investing a certain amount into the platform, you need to be able to understand what has been generated off the back of that. So if, for example, I am a footwear seller, that's kind of what I'm looking to sell across like Google Ads, for example, it's really important that, for example, the website is structured to allow me to do that. So that you're going to have different gender categories. So you could have men's and women's boots, for example. But then you've also got various different types of boots that would fall into that. Now, that is a really good, hopefully short example from a website point of view, how you could structure for those different products. That structure needs to correlate and be passed over into the Google Ads account. So what I mean by that, I'm referring back to measurability, is across, say, men's boots and women's boots in that scenario. And then if we sort of go down into more detail on that, the different types of boots within that, they're all going to have very different KPIs in terms of search volume, in terms of how much that it costs to drive a user for that search. So certain boot terms might be more expensive than others for different reasons, for different seasonality periods. And ultimately having that measurability in terms of understanding at a keyword level the performance that it should be driven from that, and then being able to structure it within your account is very powerful for advertisers. And then going back to measurability, ultimately how many sales have been driven for different terms and different product types, and because various different, take this example, boot products are going to have different margin points and overall profitability objectives, which again, if we have a well-structured website, allows us to have a well-structured Google Ads account to turn the dial on where we are investing, but also where we're looking to optimize from a profitability point of view, for example. So what we're looking at here is the Google Ads interface when you first log on. So you can see here that we have, first of all, an overview of the performance that we're looking at so far this month. Now, what we want to look at here is, for example, the search structure that we have running. So if I go ahead and click search campaigns and then select campaigns here, this will then bring up all of the campaigns I have within my account. Now, what's really important, as we've discussed in terms of website structure and the link with the Google Ads structure, is being able to have a Google Ads account structure that enables you to focus on your specific goals is really important. So to give an example of what we have here, we have a footwear retailer that, for example, sells boots and shoes and various other products. So currently, for example, we have a generic boots campaign, as you can see here. Now, this means that within this campaign type, we're obviously looking to sell and promote boot products by targeting boot-related keywords. What we refer to as generic boots is ultimately meaning that we have no brand identifier. Now, brand identifier is, for example, the brand of the company, of the product that is being sold. So what we're looking to target within a generic campaign is simply the product related terms and nothing relating to the brand. So if I go ahead and select the generic boots campaign here, this will bring up all of the different ad groups that I have within this campaign. So the campaign is showing that we're targeting boot related terms, and the ad groups enable us to target more granularly, so the different types of product types. So we can see we have vegan boots, ladies boots, women's boots, etc. Various different ad groups. Now the reason we do this is because within these ad groups we can allocate and put in specific keywords. So if we look, for example, in the ladies boots ad group, you can see that the keywords that we have are ultimately ladies boots related terms that have different match types. What this enables us to do is make sure that our ads are relevant to the keywords we're targeting. So to show this, if we look at the ads that we have running within the account, you can see that first of all, the first headline we have here refers to ladies boots. This is something that really improves quality and relevancy because the keywords we're targeting are relating to the ads that we're ultimately showing users. So there's a lot of obviously correlation and relevancy in terms of what someone's searching for to what we're promoting. It also means that when someone clicks on this ad and when someone searches, we're sending them to the ladies boots page. So the importance of this, if I jump back, for example, to show potentially what a good structure would look like is, for example, we have now ladies boots, and in this ad group, as I've shown, has ladies boots related terms. In the vegan boots ad group, for example, we obviously have keywords relating to vegan boots. Now, if we didn't have those ad groups split out, it would mean that we would find it very difficult to make our ads, and it would find it very difficult to make the ads relevant to the ad groups that they sit within. So for example, if we had one ad group that had vegan boots and ladies boots within one ad group, that relevancy would be quite difficult. So it's really important to make sure that we're segmenting and splitting out the ad groups. The next area to focus on in the importance of a good account structure links very much in terms of how you can influence and make sure that the quality score you're using within your account and campaigns are of a high quality. So for example, if we look at the ladies boots ad group again, we can see here, if we scroll along, we have these 3 metrics here which we've discussed in terms of expected click-through rate, landing page experience, and ad relevance. So these are the components that form part of the scoring within quality score. So you can see that for the 2 keywords we have within this ad group, they have both received an 8 out of 10 quality score. Now for context, 10 is the best and 1 is the worst. So the fact that we're an 8 out of 10 is pretty good. What this does show us though is the areas to improve. So for example, our expected click-through rate ultimately refers to how good the click-through rate, for example, is, or how ultimately the keywords are resonating with users and how users are able to be engaged with the types of searches that the keywords are matching to. So that is above average, so that's really good. Then we look at ad relevance. So again, how does the keywords we're targeting relate to the ads that we're showing? Again, we're seeing here that it is above average, so we're doing excellent in this area. Where, for example, we are average is with landing page experience. So landing page experience is all about ultimately improving the quality of the website and also making sure that the content that we have on the landing pages relates to the searches that users are making. And it also relates to how easy it is for the website to be able to navigate. So this ultimately tells us that if we want to improve that quality score and optimize things to get to a 10 out of 10 quality score, what we need to do is improve our landing page experience and improve that so that we can move it from average to above average, which will increase our chances of a 10 out of 10 quality score. And the benefits of this means that we will ultimately have a lower cost per click, and ultimately our performance activity will be enhanced through that. So they're just some of the ways that an account structure can be really important to make sure you're able to target the types of products that you're selling, but also in order to keep things relevant so that you're able to ultimately maximize the focus that you have on particular keywords or particular products. But also there's a key focus when we talk about quality score to make sure that things are relevant and of a high quality, because it has a direct impact on how efficient your campaigns can work and therefore how scalable your activity is.
So just to revisit one of the points you've made about the importance of account structure to make sure that you are maximizing the performance of your paid ads. Now, like you said, that also correlates with what happens on site as well. So just to revisit kind of what you were talking about earlier, Alex, when it comes to optimization of our website, does that sit within technical SEO then, to making sure that that structure is exactly where it needs to be and everything's got kind of the appropriate labels and titles, etc.?
Yes. So website architecture and structure sits within the technical SEO part of that. And like Tom says, it's important to have that structure for like SEO purposes and also for paid purposes.
So I guess what we've been able to do today then really is discuss the importance of SEO, but also search engine marketing as well, particularly when it comes to Google Ads, I would say, more than anything else. Now, of course, when it comes to paid as a discipline or an area of digital, there's a lot more that we can discuss. But I think when we're talking about this from the perspective of websites and what we need to look for in order to maximize the traffic and driving traffic to our websites, certainly that Google Ads plays a pivotal part in that in most cases. And also just being able to link up those similarities and those overlaps and how those two disciplines of SEO and also search engine marketing and Google Ads, etc., need to work together in order for us to see those results that we're looking for. So I just want to thank you guys for joining me on this session, and I look forward to seeing the rest of you in the next.